Where could I save Waterdeep, make first contact with an alien race, and travel back in time to 1955 all in one night? We're talking about Universal FanFest nights. Welcome to Christie's on Reality. If you're new here, I'm Christy. I talk about immersive experiences and the psychology that makes them work. First of all, what is FanFest? From a technical perspective, FanFest nights is Universal's attempt to capitalize on after hours the way Halloween Horror Nights does, but in the spring. It's not entirely like HHN, but there are parallels. For those of you who are not in the theme park world, HHN is Halloween Horror Nights, the spooky season offering at Universal Studios Hollywood. There are some maze-like walkthrough experiences that I'll go into more detail on in just a minute. Obviously, since it's not Horror Nights, it's not about a jump scare. So naturally, those walkthrough experiences are a little bit more narrative, which is a particularly exciting direction for me. It truly is a unique event with experiences that range from anime IPs like One Piece all the way to Back to the Future and Star Trek. It starts off to the theme park is closed, but they do offer upgraded tickets that allow you to come into the park early to have the best of both the normal theme park offerings and the after hours. I am lucky enough to have a job at FanFest that is flexible enough to let me explore on my lunch break and get to experience all that FanFest has to offer. Although I wish I was working in more of a creative capacity on some of these attractions, I was there literally every night of the run, so I was able to cover everything. And let me tell you, it's a lot. Not quite as much as Horror Nights, but enough that you have to be strategic to cover everything. Most of the rides are still open and have really short waits. So if you haven't done Universal during the day, this is actually a great way to get on those rides and not wait 40 minutes. They also have not one, but 2 DJ stages, so you can get your groove on if you want. Several times throughout the night, they have a cosplay celebration and trivia set. I saw a lot of people go all out with their costumes, so it was great that there was an opportunity for them to show them off. And also for the superfans to show off their knowledge. I didn't try any of these, but there was also themed food throughout the park, including a Jujutsu Kaisen restaurant and a D&D themed tavern. But those are all the side quests. Let's get to the main attractions. There are 7 main IPs that were featured. For those of you who don't know, IP just means intellectual property, and it is the word that's used when a big conglomerate like Universal or Disney owns the rights to a specific TV show, character, movie, game, etc. So for this event, Universal leveraged the rights to the following IPs: Jujutsu Kaisen, One Piece, Nintendo, Harry Potter, Star Trek, D&D, and my personal favorite, an oldie but a goodie, Back to the Future. Now in this list, I'm not including any of the IPs in the park that don't have something special for FanFest. All right, let's go through them one by one in reverse order of my personal preference. I like to save the best for last. First up, we have the Jujutsu Kaisen 4D show. They literally took an experience that exists in Universal Tokyo and just plopped it in the DreamWorks Theater where the Shrek 4D experience happens at Universal. There are several references within the script where the characters say Universal Tokyo. And it's all subtitles, so I was like, guys, you couldn't even just change the subtitle to say Universal Hollywood and like pretend that that's a translation, because that's kind of funny and makes sense if like the words in Japanese are Universal Tokyo but the subtitle says Universal Hollywood. I think that makes sense. Anywho, I don't know if the original experience in Tokyo has more 4D elements, but here it was mostly just chair rumbles and bursts of air. Now, I could forgive underwhelming special effects. That's fine, but it also just wasn't a very good story. It felt very repetitive, and it fell so hard into my favorite theme park trope, the "thanks so much for saving the day, you really helped out," when you literally did nothing but sit in a theater. This trope will also come up again later in this video. Speaking of helpful audiences, there's a way that you can actually make a difference. If you're enjoying this video, I would love it if you would hit the subscribe button and that little thumbs up to give it a like. It really does help me grow the channel. Next up, we have One Piece, which was pretty much just some character meet and greets, this wanted poster photo op, and also a caricature artist who was making wanted posters instead of normal caricatures. Now, I have never watched One Piece, so the character meet and greets and photo apps meant nothing to me. But they had some of the longest lines in the park, so if One Piece is your thing, then you're probably gonna love it. Even if I was into anime, though, I think that these experiences were some of the least developed of the offerings. But given how many enthusiastic anime fans showed up in costume and participated in trivia, I would be surprised if they don't lean more into those IPs in the future. Next up, we have Nintendo. As you might know, Nintendo World is already a major staple in Universal. I've been on a lot of theme parks, and Nintendo Land is one of my favorite lands I've ever been to. It is just so magical walking through that green tunnel portal and coming out into this like colorful cartoon world. Now for FanFest, the only thing they added to Nintendo World was Yoshi's Egg Hunt. You pick up this cute little crown, and then you walk around the park looking for spotted eggs. You get stickers for those eggs, and if you collect all the stickers, you get a gold little fancy sticker, and you get an exclusive meet and greet opportunity with a Yoshi that might be a different color than the traditional green. Now, this experience is mostly for kids, but I saw plenty of adults doing it, and if I wasn't just going to things on my lunch break, I might have actually taken the time to get all those stickers. But for me, it was enough to be like, oh, that's cute, and move on. Okay, now we're at my top 3/4. These next two, the Star Trek experience and the D&D experience, are tied for third. The structure of these experiences was most similar to a Halloween Horror Nights maze in that there's a set that's built for the event, and you as a guest go from room to room to experience a story. Now for Horror Nights, these stories are very limited, but for FanFest, they are taking a big step to try to give you a narrative experience. The Dungeons & Dragons Secrets of Waterdeep experience takes you on a meandering journey to save Waterdeep from too many things for me to efficiently state in this summary. And in Star Trek, you are touring the ship when all of the systems start to shut down and everyone starts to panic, and then miraculously, spoiler alert, in the last 10 seconds, all of that panic instantly turns into elation when they realize that all of those malfunctions were caused by a brand new, friendly alien species with whom they have just made first contact. Honestly, fine story, just the flip at the end was way too fast. And all of the tension that they built up was just like gone in an instant. Both of these experiences had very impressive scenic design, especially this very impressive puppet that they had in the D&D experience. But for me, as someone who prioritizes narrative and interaction above all else in immersive experiences, these experiences set up a higher level of expectations than they were able to meet. I could go on a whole tirade about theme park stories just being kind of meh overall, but that is a subject for another video. Anywho, hey there, Future Christy here. Unfortunately, some of my video footage got corrupted, so I am now re-recording a good third of this video 2 days later. I thought to make a very not fun situation a little bit more fun, I would turn it into a game of spot the difference. So let me know in the comments if you can tell what's different about this shot versus what I shot on Friday. Okay, back to FanFest. Unfortunately, both D&D and Star Trek were battling a lot of issues with audio. A, there was a ton of sound bleed because the temporary walls are not designed to block out any sound. And B, using mics is a major challenge when you have performers moving from room to room. Star Trek was able to keep using the wireless mics because their performers were stationed in a single room, but it still was difficult to understand what the characters were saying. D&D had one character who had a wireless mic. Once again, hard to understand them, but the other two characters moved from room to room. Now, I went to see D&D on the first night, and I could have sworn they were wearing wireless mics, but I guess they were just yelling? I don't know. But the first night, the sound was super intermittent and choppy, and you could only hear half of what they were saying. Then I came back like 2 weeks later, and the actors were speaking into brooms and candlesticks and lanterns, and it was very obvious that they had hidden microphones inside these props. This was a strange and hilarious workaround, but I did understand the story better when I could actually hear what the characters were saying, so I guess I would have to say it was an improvement. All of this to say, both of these experiences were fun and showed a lot of potential, but they didn't quite land for me this year. But I really appreciate that they're making experiences that are more narrative driven, and I hope they continue to push in that direction in the future. With this style of narrative experience with live actors and an audience size that's relatively small, there is a ripe potential for audience interaction. This year, instead of embracing that opportunity, they unfortunately fell back into that same theme park trope that I brought up earlier, the one where they congratulate you as the audience for all of the help you brought when you really did nothing. I understand why they fall into that trope when it's a pre-recorded video, but when you have live actors and there's actually the potential for real engagement, it just feels different. It just feels like such a tease. From what I saw, especially at the end of the run when I went through and it was a really small group, the actors are ready for it. There just unfortunately isn't enough room in the writing and the direction to make space for that audience involvement. The one specific example I have that really frustrated me was in D&D, there was a room where there was a puzzle that needed to be solved to get to the next room. And so I, as someone who's done a bunch of immersive and has gone to escape rooms, hear, puzzle to be solved. Oh, I get to help. And then 10 seconds later, the character is like, it worked! It was a complete yes! I mean, we did it together! Yeah! Then the next door opens up. I really hope that someday, when the characters thank me for my help, that I will actually feel like I've done something. But today is not that day. Next up, we have Harry Potter. Now, I don't love speaking positively about anything that comes from J.K. Rowling, who somehow has the incredible imagination to dream up Hogwarts and Diagon Alley and Quidditch and all of these other things, but somehow can't wrap their brain around the existence of transgendered people and why they should have the right to peacefully affirm their identity. But for the sake of this video, I am just going to talk about my personal experience of what they created for FanFest, which unfortunately probably does give her money. But they did do a good job with it. So the main attraction in Harry Potter World was a projection mapped show called Hogwarts Always. I guess technically this show in and of itself would not fit into my personal definition of immersive, which you can learn about in this video, but it is some of the most impressive projection mapping I have personally seen. And I've seen some pretty impressive projection mapping at, namely the show at Tokyo Disney Sea and Team Lab, both of which were in Japan. Now, those examples do some things way more impressively than this Hogwarts show, but I just found it so creative and impressive the way that they used the building itself to make so many different elements of the Harry Potter story come to life. So assuming they bring at least that back next year, I would highly recommend looking at those time slots at the beginning of the night and prioritize catching one of them. They also had not one, but two mystical creatures that you could interact with within Harry Potter World, one of which was a Niffler, who had an interactor who was a post worker who discovered said Niffler in a package and is seeking help from the guests in the theme park as to what to do with this creature they've just discovered. And the other was this beautiful dragon puppet that I found just even more impressive. It was just so beautiful and mystical, but at the same time lifelike. Now, I did have a bit of a weird experience with not the person who was the puppeteer, but one of their handlers, and I actually caught it on video.
I'm having you guys come out to the side, please.
Now, I understand that it is that person's job to clear the crowd for the performer to get to their next location. Their next location was literally 10 feet away, and then they kept engaging with people. So it was just to like shift the crowd, not to like rush them off to a break that was overdue or something like that. But even still, there is a way to accomplish that without breaking the world or being rude. Like, they could have easily accomplished the same task of clearing the way by saying, "Make way for the dragon," in a calm and authoritative voice. But I just don't think they are hiring or training the handlers to the same level of expectation as they would the performer. And the world suffered for it. And there was also a very similar instance in the Back to the Future activation, which I'm about to get to. So at the top of my list is the Back to the Future activation, which for me was just the absolute highlight of the entire event. Now, if you know anything about me and my love for vintage style, you could probably guess that this IP would be at the top of my list regardless of what the activation was. But I really think that what they did with the Back to the Future activation was a huge step above what they did for all of the other IPs. First of all, you're walking onto the actual set where the actual movie was filmed 40 years ago. You may already know this if you've been on the Universal Hollywood backlot tour. They're still using that as an active set today. But for FanFest, you actually got to get off the tram and into Hill Valley, California in 1955, where you witness a very abbreviated version of the story's main plot points. On the day that we got permission to dress up from our boss, of course, I, as a vintage enthusiast, chose to dress up for this trip back in time. While I am not a dedicated enough cosplayer to source an outfit that looks like one of Lorraine's from the movie, I did take inspiration from her look to do my hair and makeup the way she does and wear an outfit that was inspired by her sense of style. And I can proudly say I passed the "Are you an actor?" test, meaning that guests were coming up to me assuming that I was part of the show and then I had to tell them that I'm not. I did record my process of creating this look, so be on the lookout for that video, which I will likely release on July 3rd, which is the official 40th anniversary of the release of Back to the Future. Because this experience was such a wide open world, there was a lot more opportunity to interact with the performers. If you're familiar with secret cinema experiences, this kind of felt like secret cinema at 5x speed. Now, those performers had some major hurdles to overcome, with needing to hit their acting beats to get that story out in 40 minutes, and they were fielding some major time period anachronisms because, let's face it, part of why people come is to be able to take photos and video, and cell phones don't exist in 1955. For the most part, I think the actors handled this very well. Once again, though, the writing and the direction didn't leave space for any meaningful engagement from the audience, and it would be my dream job to work with the writers and performers on that team to make that audience interaction more intentional, bringing the guests into the story instead of just keeping them as observers. So if you're on the creative team for FanFest and that sounds exciting to you, you can find my contact information on my website, which is linked below. Sorry, not sorry for the shameless plug. The biggest issues this activation had were the sightlines and the crowds. For both the Enchantment Under the Seas dance and the finale, I pretty much only saw a sea of cell phones and couldn't really see anything the actors were doing. I didn't even know there were flaming DeLorean tracks on the road until my coworker went the next day and showed me a photo. Instead, I was just really confused why there was another 30 seconds of music after the fireworks that seemed to be the finale to me. Now, if I was a normal guest and I didn't have to get back to work, I probably would have just stayed for another loop so that I could see the things that I missed. But even what I did do, which was wait online, take the tram to the location, watch one loop, and immediately get back on the tram, that took 90 minutes, and my lunch break is only supposed to be 60. Thankfully, I was able to arrange with the coworker to make that okay, but with that time limit, I was not able to wait online for any of the photo ops, including this very cute photo op with the DeLorean and Einstein, or play any of the carnival games, or go through a second loop to meet more of the characters and see what I missed the first time around. I personally hope they do Back to the Future again next year, but even if they change what IP it is, they're gonna do something on the back lot. And I would highly recommend making that your first stop. Now, if you get in early, the first tram does not leave until 7 p.m., but if you catch it close to that, you'll still have some daylight left, which means, like me, you'll be able to take some photos on the sets that aren't the official photo ops while there's still daylight. If I had waited even just an hour later after it got dark, I probably would have needed to wait in line for one of the official photo ops just to get a decent shot. And as I mentioned earlier, the photo ops were by far the longest lines of anything in the park. All right, that is everything that FanFest has to offer. Go ahead and leave a comment below and tell me which of the experiences was or would be your favorite. And let me know if you think any of these experiences warrant their own video to dive deeper into what the experience entailed. At least this year, the crowds were light enough that you could walk onto practically everything. The longest I waited was for the Back to the Future tram, which was maybe 10 minutes. And then the other thing that had waits were the photo ops. So if those photo ops are important to you, you might not get to hit everything, but if you just want to do the FanFest attractions, you can definitely hit them all in one night. Unless next year it gains a lot of popularity and that changes, which might happen. Now, I know they're definitely going to do at least one more year, and I believe they committed to 5 is what I remember hearing, but I am not by any means an authority on that. My job does not give me any proclivity to that kind of information, so don't quote me on that. But there does seem to be a commitment to giving this event a chance and seeing where it goes, so they're not going to cut it right away just because crowds were pretty light this year. Overall, there is lots of room for improvement, but I am really excited to see where this event goes. It truly is unique, and I'm really excited to see something with a narrative focus, and hopefully they start to dig deeper into the interactive elements. Assuming they change it up and or add more in future years, what IPs would you want to see at FanFest? If you stuck around this far, I think you're going to like the rest of the content on my channel, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you get notified every time I post a new video. And do me a favor, while you're there, hit that like button. It is a free and easy way that you can help me grow this channel. Now, as I talked about, my thing is interaction. So it would mean the world to me if you joined the conversation in the comments below. And I also want to invite you to join my Making Believe community. Linked in the description below is my website where you can sign up for our newsletter. In the welcome email, you'll find a Discord invite link where you can join a community of believers and dreamers who are probably also skeptics. I'd love to connect with you there. The newsletter and the Discord channel are also the best places to keep up with when I will be hosting Holy Shit Focus rituals, as well as interacting classes and hopefully very soon more immersive experiences of my own. So definitely go to that link, sign up, and I'll see you there. Or if you just want to keep watching YouTube videos, maybe check out these ones next. See you next time.